Okay, so I want to moisten this, but not a lot, because with beginners what will happen is they will, as they attack it, the clay will slide right off. Okay, there's 6 steps to the way I teach this. Step 1 is you know that. And if you're having a bad day and you just miss, then take it off and just push it down. Okay, step 1. Step 2, get your hands wet, get your clay wet, and keep in mind that if this were a clock face, 12, 6, 9, and 3, you'd be doing a lot of your work at 4 o'clock. Okay, so I'm going to get my hand wet, get the clay wet, and I'm going to just take my right index finger and just sort of smush. I'm not pushing hard, this clay is soft. I'm just going to sort of smush the clay to the back, and that will pretty much ensure that it's not going to move around and do any bodily damage. Okay? Okay, step 3 is control. And you'll see the advanced students do this differently than the way I'm going to show you today. That's because I don't want to confuse you. But I want you to have the feeling of using your body to lean on and surround the clay. So I'm going to, with my elbows on my legs, I get my butt as close as I can get it. I'm going to lean here, here, here. I mean, I'm just going to surround the clay with pressure. Both hands. Now keep in mind that I'm not going, okay? I mean, I weigh, after all the Girl Scout cookies, about 2 pounds more than I did last week. But I'm going to use you can see my body come in, I'm pushing, and I've got a little bit of a wobble to it. I don't really care about that. And I'm going to come off. And you can see that it's just a little rounder and a little smoother. Okay? So there's 8 steps, and we've already done 3 of them. So we're on a roll here. Now let's assume, for the sake of argument, that yours is going to look more like that. Besides years of experience and technique, the single biggest difference between my hands and your hands is my hands don't move, and your hands are going to. And so when you try to center, you're going to try and do a build center, everything this, and you're going to go like this. And you're going to wonder why the clay isn't doing what you want it to, as opposed to when you stop moving your hands. So what you have to do is you've got to put the clay in a position, put your body or your hands in a position where they can be rigid. What I want you to do is I want you to take your left elbow, and I want you to, and now it depends on body type, I mean, and size and how long your arms are, but here's what I want. I want your butt up as close as you can get it, and I want so that when you lean forward, your left hand comes with your body. Now I want you to watch me and look at the difference, and we did this with the air throwing last time. Remember that there's a difference between this, and this is the good news, watch the bad news. So your brain says, well, I'm leaning way over, but the angle that I create is just collapsing. So you feel like, David, one of these days, let's talk about pulling handles. Yeah, okay. I think it's harder starting from the shape that you created. It's easier if you have a cone. Yeah, I'll show you. But if I were to draw a line through my forearm like that, the power is going to be from my body through the radius and the ulna, I believe those are the bones in the arm, through the middle of the clay. And so if I just lean on the clay, watch what happens. If I just slowly increase, and if I just don't allow my hand to move much, that wobble pretty much goes away, doesn't it? I mean, that's really all there is to it. But what happens, beginners, your brain just plays, you think you're pushing hard and this elbow kicks out. Well, now I've got nothing behind it. Now I'm pushing hard. Or you'll roll this hand over and, gee, that's not working very well. As opposed to keeping it simple, left hand on your body, and I'm just sort of coming through. And what I'm doing is I'm creating a situation where I'm putting the clay between 2 opposing forces. How do you know when to use water? Whenever you feel like it. There's no right or wrong. I mean, the quicker you throw, the less water you use, but when you're a beginner, you're going to want this thing grounded. Because as you apply pressure, you're going to create friction. Okay? Now what you're going to try to do is you're going to try and trap this between two opposing forces. This force is going to, if I just lean on it, it wants to get out of the way of that force. Well, but I'm not going to let that happen, so I'm going to trap it. So, first thing I'm going to do, and you see my, sort of like a baby karate chop, I don't want my hand here, and you're going to forget most of this, but I'll come back and I'll help you. I'm going to push down gently, and I'm not making a pancake here, but what you want to do is you want to keep the clay from climbing. So I put my hand here and watch. Then I lean in with my body, and I start off really slowly, and what happens is I push. So let's equate my force with miles per hour. Okay, so I'm 0. Okay, 5, 10. For this one, 15, and all of a sudden at 15, the wobble went away. I'm done. Hold it for a second, come off slowly, and it's centered. A bigger piece of clay, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Okay, now the wobble. So it's just relative to how big you're throwing.
Yeah, and then I cut off this
so,
chunk.
How do you know if it's centered? If you put your finger here and the gap between your finger and the clay stays the same, you're fine.
I usually have 2 or 3 too because I'm
See it change? That's not centered. Okay, so I'm going to come in, I'm going to center it. It's such a feel thing. I mean, I could do this, I mean, it's not even hard with your eyes closed. In fact, if you ever watch me throw with somebody else, as a rule, I will turn my head when I'm helping somebody because I want to rely on my tactile simulation versus the visual.
One of the videos on YouTube, the woman talked about she closed her eyes when she did that.
Yeah, it's a good technique. I mean, blindfolded throwing, people make a big deal out of it. It's really easy. I mean, if you're making a big pot, it's not easy because you can't see the curve. But, okay, for you guys, and this is the most important step because now when I put the hole in it, the hole's going to be in the middle. Okay? Watch what happens if it's off center. Let me get rid of that. I've never done this before, but okay. Okay, so this is obviously not centered. Okay, well when you put the hole in it, your finger's still going to go in the same spot. So you can't see it. Or maybe you can. You see how this side is thicker than this side?
Right, it's not centered.
Now you're screwed. Because there's no way you can ever get it even. Now the pot's going to start doing this. So that's why centering is so important. And you'll see me center with both hands like this. And that's just because I had to learn to center from helping students from that side over time. Okay, to put the hole in it, I want your 2 thumbs together. And I want you notice my thumbs I've got fat, chubby thumbs. I want you to notice the angle that they're at. They're not, I can't even bend them, but they're like this as opposed to this. So they can be up in the air. I'm touching the clay and I'm just going to push down. Now if it gets a little dry, take your hands off slowly, put some water in the hole, and continue to push. You'll notice that the angle that my thumbs create does not change, does it? Okay? So I'm making a cone. Okay, to open the hole, it's the same hand position. I'm going to curl my thumbs towards my palm. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to touch the clay. I'm just going to spread my thumbs apart. Watch your wheel speed now because you can spin your pot to death. Okay? I'm sorry, what did? Well, you know what? Yeah, I'll have to show you. If you're making more than one handle.
I usually make like 3 handles per mug or something like that. Because they're not that good. So one of them.
Yeah, you know what? Then I need to tell you. Okay, yeah, we'll talk. I'm just going back and making sure that bottom's flat.
I like it this way though because of
Making sure the bottom.
Yeah, because what happens, you guys as a rule, when I do it, my thumbs go pretty straight, but your hands are gonna go.
Oh,
Okay, I'm just going back and flattening it out. Okay, so centering is the most important. These next two steps are the most difficult. This number 7 is called volcano, and I brace every chance I get. Here, 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 and my thumbs are together. What I'm going to do is with the thumb, left thumb, I'm going to roll towards the middle, and with the sponge, I'm just going to push towards the middle. And watch what happens. Now, I'm going to kick my hand out like this. I don't want you to, but I do not want these to put any, the minute these put any pressure at all, you're screwed. So here we go. So I'm going to do it like this, but I want you to have your fingers in there. I want it to be a habit. Watch. So this is going to roll. See it start to roll, and the sponge comes right next to it, and I'm going to push it into a volcano. Okay? Let's do an instant replay of that. Okay? Now, the last step is lifting, and it's the hardest. It is because it requires the most feel. But the hand position is identical to the volcano. I want your left, I want this thumb all the way down to the bottom. I want both thumbs together. We're going to push about 50-50 with the sponge, and I don't care whether you use your index finger or your middle finger. But I'm going to push here, and I'm going to push out, and I use these two fingers. I'm going to push out. See the out? So here's the sponge and here's the inside. And once you have that, you don't push any harder. You just are going to lift. And that pressure that you initiated at the beginning will be what you need to lift your cylinder. And as they get center, the bulge becomes a little more obvious. So I'm going to push. See it from see the inside? You see how the
That's what your fingers do.
yeah, and this is above that one, right? In other words, they're like this. They're not like this.
Which one's on top?
The inside. See, it's got to be. There's a bottom here, and then you just lift it like that. And I get to the top. I relax. I come off. I set the lip. And one more time.
You're not using the sponge this time?
Yeah, just to have it like that in there. Now each one of those rings is one revolution of the wheel. Okay. Now you can see that it doesn't have much of a wobble to it. And so if I wanted to make something out of this, it makes it a whole lot easier. I wanted to shape this. I'm just showing off now, but I wanted you to see that I need and somebody have a wire.
Yeah.
Right behind you.
Just can't rotate that much. You can see how thin you can make it. Because it wasn't wobbling to begin with, I have the luxury of making it thin. Where if one side's thicker, it starts doing this, and then it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. Okay? Okay. And so here we go.